Welcome to the Science of Parenting podcast, where we connect you with research based information that fits your family. We'll talk about the realities of being a parent and how research can help guide our parenting decisions. I'm Mackenzie Johnson, parent of two littles with their own quirks, and I'm a parenting educator.
I'm Suzanne Bartholome, and I am an associate professor who strives to help people reduce their financial stress, increase their financial stability, and I'm a proud parent of a high schooler who still talks to me.
We love it. In today's episode, we're going to dig back into this, what we're talking about all season kids, money, family. But this time, we're going to kind of think about the end goal related to, what we learned in the first episode of financial socialization or financial parenting. And so we're going to think about this end goal, right, Suzanne? This term of, financial well being.
Yeah, financial well-being, that term that a lot of us don't sit down to analyze very often. We don't spend a lot of
No.
time on it, but people like me, the geeky researchers and people that are interested in what the concept means to people,
Yeah.
yeah, we
I'll
gotta
join you in the geeky realm. I'm joining you like right. We love a term. I love a term. I'm speaking for everybody. We collectively love a term. But yeah, so of course, let's start there with that definition. What does the literature say? Like what guidance does it tell us? Like what is financial well-being? Because I feel like it could be a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah, and so the term financial well-being has really been built out a lot in the last,
Mm.
I'd say, decade, and that's with the help of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is a new federal
Mm.
agency that emerged from the financial crisis of 2007, 2008, when a lot of
Okay.
consumers got into home ownership and maybe shouldn't have been there. They weren't ready for it. There were
Mhm.
credit products that just got a lot of people into trouble, and so they are a new federal agency that really is there to help empower consumers, help enforce consumer finance laws, and just get bad actors
Mm.
out of the marketplace, and really get them to pay for what they're get them to. They've given back like almost $15 billion to consumers since they've
Wow.
come on. Yeah, yeah, just
Yes.
for just being predatory lenders or
Mm.
too high of interest rate. And then the other key is
Yeah.
that they want to educate people. So definition,
Yes.
you
I was
asked
like, so a
before,
good,
yeah,
but like
formal
that tells
definition.
us it's a credible. This is a credible source, right? Their goal is to educate, empower, protect. Like, all right,
Yes,
Consumer
and
Financial Protection Bureau.
exactly. They have great resources for parents. So I
Oh
really
yeah,
recommend your listeners to get online and check out the resources
awesome.
because education is a big part of it and research. And so they
Mhm,
did some research with consumers and with practitioners, and
mhm,
this is their definition. They define financial well being as having financial security and financial freedom of choice in the present and in the future.
all right, yeah, and I love they specifically said in this report, which you shared with our team, uh, right, like real people really define it this way. All right, even if we don't use those specific words or terms, these are a lot of times the concepts we're getting at when we're like, what is it to be financially well? Well, it's about security and it's about choice. And I like that it also leans into that like time aspect, right? Like right now, but also like down the line, because that's a big part of financial well-being is where we're headed and how our money can be used to like protect us and yeah, choice and security in the future.
Yeah, exactly. So many financial decisions that we make today are about our future.
Mm. Mhm.
So as an 18-year-old saving for retirement, that's
Yes.
gonna, it's really hard to think about the future, but hey, when you get your first job and you get an offer from an employer that they're gonna do some matched savings for retirement, you gotta do it. You gotta take them up on it.
Mhm.
But it's really hard to let go of that
It
spending. But
is.
yeah.
It is. Well, not like, I get one thing I'm geeky about is like behavioral science, behavior economics, and we do talk about it with money that this idea of it's like so far out. How do you like, how do we even make it tangible to think like,
Mhm.
yes, this is what I want in 40 years, right? That's
Yeah.
difficult to make tangible. But okay, but the things we
Yes.
do want, let's like break down these two constructs a little. So one is about security. So what does it
Mhm.
look like? Let's talk like right in the present. What does it look like to have security in the present?
So, financial security in the present is having control over your day-to-day, month-to-month finances. So that means that a bill comes in, you can pay for it, you know,
Mm,
that you have
mhm.
some type of organizational system in place, that you're
Yeah.
controlling your expenses, when you have income, you're allocating it, whether it's to checking or savings or
Mhm,
whatever your goals are that you've set for that money.
mhm. And I almost feel like a piece of that, yeah, is just that. I mean, I'm like, I wanna use the word security, but, like, the safety, the surety, the, like, dependability almost of, like, we have enough access to like, our finances are in a place, I have enough access to take care of those things, right? And whether it's month to month, and I remember one of the reports you shared with me, like, used that term financial shock.
Mm, yeah,
And, like, is that a part
yes.
of security too in the present, right? Is that idea of, like, financial shock that you would, like, be able to withstand an unexpected bill?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that ability to absorb shock is financial security, but it means in the future. So,
Oh,
but
oh, I'm getting ahead, I'm
yeah,
cheating.
yeah, yeah. No, 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 that's okay, that's okay. I mean, because 'cause they're related, right? And
They
so
are.
COVID came along, right? And
Mm.
so, that is we've talked about this, it really, put the light on the vulnerability of so many Americans in terms of their finances. That
Absolutely.
all of a sudden their income stopped and there was no way to absorb that shock. I mean, the government stepped in with a lot of, the American Rescue Act and all sorts of
Mhm.
provisions, but they were temporary. And now we're in a space where um, the effects are really being felt, I think.
Oh, yeah, like inflation and I mean, even though, for a lot of people, we might say even like post-pandemic, arguably, right? But
Hmm.
that like the effect is still felt because in even though, I mean, we talked about present and future in the past,
Hmm.
right? But because they
Yeah.
weren't necessarily ready or able to absorb that in that moment, like, right, did we take on debt to do things? Did we, right? Were we forced to make really hard financial decisions because of that? So, yeah, that idea of security.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm,
So things like, deferring or suspending student loan payments, that's been going on.
mhm.
Mortgage lenders also suspending payments temporarily, that happened. There
Yes.
was increased unemployment. So there were all sorts of things that we weren't used to. And actually, temporarily, a lot of Americans were in better financial shape and had increased
Mm.
financial well-being. There's a health survey that you can pretty much document people's feelings of financial well-being, and you might expect,
Yes.
like, oh yeah, after COVID they should really, because of this shock, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
should be maybe having lower financial well-being, but the actuality was that they weren't
Oh, wow.
initially, but now it's starting to
Yes.
decline again.
Yes.
Yeah,
That makes
because
sense, that makes
yeah,
sense.
it
And
was
so
more in
I was
yeah.
gonna, like, keep rolling on this, but I'm like, I almost wanna pause here. Okay, thinking about financial security in the present and financial security in the future. If we, like, shift our hat, right? Of course, it's natural to think about our own finances, but thinking about our kids, thinking about the goal with our financial parenting with our kids when we think about security in their present and in their future. What comes to mind
Yeah.
for you as you think of, like, parenting related to financial security
Yeah, we should
for our
get back to the
kids?
parenting thing, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I guess. We'll talk about it
Well,
sometimes.
so this generation who has experienced the shock and even the financial housing, the crisis and the
Mm,
meltdown that happened in 2007, 2008. I mean,
mhm.
anecdotally, what my colleagues and I have, I think, observed in some college students that grew up seeing their parents maybe struggling with the
Yes.
housing crisis and having financial challenges, they're more risk averse, meaning
Mm.
that they are, you know, um, wanting more security,
Yeah, they
right?
wanna be sure that it's enough, that it's not gonna, like, disappear from under them. Yes.
Sure, and so you can really look at things like the depression, the housing
Mm,
crisis, stock market crashes, things that really impact a household and have a shock to the household. It has kind of
mhm.
a reverberating effect on the way, someone's attitude is shaped, and so that's kind of a parenting thing, right? Like, how
Yes.
you're reacting is gonna shape the attitude of your child.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and like with this idea of reflecting in the last episode about like our values related to money and what we want to pass on and what we don't want to pass on, right? Like what like debt maybe. But these things
Yeah.
we do and don't want to pass on to our kids financially. And so I think about that. that security piece of how can I think about passing on financial security as a part of well-being to my kids. And so, I think my husband's, like I've said, a financial advisor. So I'm like, oh, the like investment plans is one
Mm,
option,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But there's more. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah, I mean,
beyond that, right?
it is, and so it's that capacity to absorb shock, and the only way we can do that is if we have savings, right?
Mm,
So we have some kind of a little nest egg or some kind of a emergency fund is what we typically call it, or a rainy day fund,
yes.
so that when there is trouble, or there's a shock, then you can face it with a little bit of extra money. Insurance is
That makes
another
sense.
thing, like your
Oh,
choices
yeah.
in life insurance and house insurance if
Mhm.
there's disaster, that is a way to protect risk, right?
Absolutely. And so thinking
So
about passing that knowledge of like I should have an emergency fund. And yeah,
mhm,
the like knowing how to navigate that, right? Knowing how to have a savings and those things, like those are skills and knowledge and
yeah.
capabilities we can teach to our kids.
Yes,
Like we can do
absolutely.
that.
You can start young, yeah, with the
Yes.
whole getting, your child to start savings habits, and
Mhm.
it's tough, again,
It
because 'cause we're
is.
getting back to that future versus current
Yes.
consumption. It's very abstract,
Mhm.
to think about your future self, but
Mhm.
introduce your child to their future self. Talk about
Ooh,
their
I
future
love
self. I
that.
mean, we do that day, and we'll ask them, like, "What do you think you wanna be when you grow up?" That's probably
Mhm.
about as, concrete as we get when it comes to talking about, like, what do you think you're do yourse do you what do you see yourself doing, right?
Mhm.
But there's, what are their aspirations? And then there's every aspiration typically will be tied to, "Okay, well, what's that aspiration gonna cost?"
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
so, um
Yeah, like
how
if
attainable it is will have to do with how realistic they're thinking about it, right?
yes, whether that's like education or leisure or even like certain career paths, and
Mhm.
things like that. Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Yeah.
simple conversations about
Yes.
career, and then career tied to income, and then income tied to lifestyle, and then lifestyle, having a price tag,
Yes. Yes.
So
Okay, so making some of these things concrete and helping our kids have that future orientation regardless of their age. Like for whatever that makes sense for them, right? And we're gonna get into this in our upcoming episodes on
Yes,
teaching
we
them about it
will.
based on their age, but like whatever that looks like, those are things we can do to help us like build their like financial security is like teaching
Yeah,
them that content, modeling it for them, and all of that stuff.
and,
Mhm.
delayed gratification.
Ooh, yes,
That's a huge one, right?
yes,
I mean, that's a skill, that's a attitude, that if
yeah.
a child has that, then if you can build that muscle, then you're
Hmm.
doing very good work as a parent for their financial security.
Mm. Okay, I'm like taking notes on that one. Like, ooh, I should work on that.
We
Maybe in
all,
myself as an
yes.
adult, a skill I need to work on as well.
Well, and then I think also as a
Oh.
parent, talking to your child about trade-offs. And that's where delayed
Yes.
gratification comes in, right? So, "Mom, I want these pair of Nikes," right?
Mhm.
Well, okay, if we buy those Nikes, what are we not gonna first of all, I like to with my daughter, my high
Mhm.
schooler, is say, "You realize that pair of sneakers costs like 3 hours, 5 hours, 8
Yeah, like
hours?"
quantify to the tangible
Quantify
thing. Yes.
yes, yes, exactly. D a delayed gratification, and I have college students, I ask them about this, and something that they do is they'll shop online, they'll put it in the, cart, but not buy it for 24 hours at least,
Oh,
and sleep
yes.
on it. So that's kind of another way to model, or,
Mhm.
because a lot of times you're hot about buying something and then you wait 24 hours and then you're like, "Okay, well, you know what?
Okay.
I might have been in the moment there and I can probably live without this,"
Yes.
potentially. So,
Oh, I love that. Okay, so security as a part of financial well-being, right? That's one component. In the present, it's about that control over your like day-to-day, month-to-month finances, and in the future, that ability to absorb that financial shock. I like that term, financial shock. Okay.
me too.
So now let's talk about that other component though. So this freedom of choice idea. Let's like, can you help us dig into that a little more?
Yeah, so financial freedom, to make choices that you enjoy in life. The idea
Mm,
is, that and financial freedom, I think we also talked about this, that, like, one definition is, your ability to quit your job if you're not happy. That's like ultimate
Oh,
definition of financial freedom,
like
right?
that is
You because
freedom.
that's like
Yes.
that's having a choice, like that you're not dependent on your
Yes.
income. I mean, that's huge,
Mm.
right? But,
Mhm.
but really in the definition that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, describes in terms of freedom of choices, it's very simple. It's things like, "I wanna go out to dinner tonight. I don't wanna cook."
Mm.
I wanna be able to buy, I wanna be able to enroll my child in an activity that might require some extra expenses like equipment
Yes.
or, fees just for participating. That's a big
Mhm.
one, right? Just, uh, wedding presents, birthday presents, being
Mm.
able to have a party. I mean, they're very it's
Yes.
very can be as simple as that, and for a lot of us, that's, feeling of freedom, like, I don't have to worry about it if I want to do this.
Yes, and yeah, within reason, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I do think that's also one of the great things about this definition that they offer is people can decide their own context, right? Like you can
Yeah.
decide, yeah, my definition of freedom is not to be able to quit my job, right? Maybe my
Yeah.
definition is that okay, if we feel like going out to eat, like that it's not a burden, right? That there's not too much opportunity cost on it. And so
Right.
thinking about that as I like that as just like choices to enjoy life, that your money is a means to like help you enjoy life. I like
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it is, it is. It
Mhm.
it it opens, opportunities for us,
Yes.
and you feel a little stressed and out of control when opportunities are shut to you,
Yes.
right?
Yes, when you're
You
like,
feel
"I can't
frustrated, you're
choose
like,
this."
"I can't d" yeah, so
Mhm. Okay, so that's in the present. In the present is the enjoy life. What about when they're talking about it in the future? Choice in the future.
all right. So, yeah. So, choice in the future is that you're on track to meet your financial goals. And
Okay.
while all of us, there's general goals that most families and households will have, things like
Mhm.
sending your child to college, maybe
Mm.
living in a certain neighborhood, driving a car, having a car.
Mhm.
Um, so that's one piece of it. But those choices and this really kind of is I think integrated into the definition is that it's really everybody's choices are tied to values, right? And that's
Yep.
I think where as parents and just even as consumers we don't really become intentional about is my spending tied to my values and
Mm.
what I want for my child, right? So
Yes.
if I contribute to a charity or contribute to a faith organization, I'm
Mhm.
demonstrating that okay, I value what this is providing to the
Yes.
community or it's providing to me. Um, so giving,
Mm.
right,
Yes.
is a value, and so yeah.
Mhm. Well, and I think I can think of even just like, yeah, families that I know, friends that we have, which is of course centered around like my own experience and my own culture and race and all of these things. But, I have friends who would say like financial goals, they invest, if you will, in like healthful food, right? Like that is
Mhm,
something that is important to them to invest in. Or I have friends that, like like travel is
mhm,
like that's a family value is like that time together. Or I honestly can say a financial goal like value for the stage of life that my family is in right now is like ease and convenience. Like
mhm,
we are doing a lot of other things just like in our personal and professional lives that it's like okay, a value that we have right now is how can we use our money with choice to simplify our lives, right? To help us meet the goals, which may like some of them are financial, but some of them aren't. um,
right, yeah,
but it
well, that
is,
makes
it's
a lot of
centered.
sense.
Yeah, I was saying it's so different for different people. And like, that's what it says. Like, whatever your financial goal is.
Yeah, it's and I think it's like a fingerprint. So my
Mm,
fingerprint's very different than yours, and how I make my money
yes.
choices are based on a host of different factors that
Oh, yeah.
my
You heard a
age,
lot of them last
my
week.
age,
Mm,
my financial socialization, and what my
mhm,
parents wanted to give me, and what values we put there, and or that they try to instill in me. Where I live, my neighborhood, my peer group, who's influencing me in terms of choices. Um,
mhm.
yeah, I mean,
There's a lot
moving
there.
to Ames, Iowa, which is where I am,
Yes.
and moving from kind of more of a metropolitan place, I was really, I was really happy to see that it's not a very status oriented place.
Oh,
And
yes.
so moving here with the 5-year-old, I was really happy to move out of the neighborhood I was in where it was like the car you drove,
Mm.
purses you
Oh,
carried, these kinds of
yes.
things were important,
Mhm.
to that community, and to me, that was I've never been a status-oriented kind of person,
Mm.
and
Yes.
so I'm happy to be in a place where it's like, you're not judged by what you're driving.
Yes, and that's, like that aligns it sounds like this is aligning more with your financial values, right? You're like, the location,
Definitely.
like, culture, that makes sense. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, whole status
Yeah.
orientation is a whole 'nother
Yeah,
episode.
like, okay,
Yeah.
a whole thing, okay, on track.
Maybe a bonus episode, I
Yes.
don't know.
Okay, so let's dig in, like right, like, back into it with this idea of parenting, and when we think about choice, freedom of choice, and how we can help build and give this to our kids for their future financial well-being.
Yeah,
Um,
so financial
yeah.
socialization and parent communication, like very,
Mhm.
explicit communication, the
Mhm.
right research shows that it's associated with different financial outcomes. It's even associated with, you know, your, financial outcomes could be associated with your parent-child relationships, interactions,
Yes.
warmth,
I saw
attachment,
that.
right?
I
And r
saw
right,
that in the
warmth,
stuff you
attachment.
sent, yes.
Yeah,
Like,
but
that's a
that's an
big
aside,
theme.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the way we talk about money, the way we model money, whether we're arguing with the spouse or maybe we're having a disagreement
Mm.
with the spouse, children are absorbing. And so to be
Mhm.
very purposeful about your communication, maybe talk through them, with them, like what your budget is or what you're planning. Like if you're planning a family vacation, involve them in the planning.
Mhm.
And what maybe even have them plan it, give it if they're the right age, give them a pot of
Yes.
money and say, okay, I want you to find a hotel, airline, and
Yes.
now, okay, now that's pretty big, but how about, like, okay, we wanna go to the movies, how
Mhm.
can you spend on the family $30 to send us all to the movies? Well, uh,
Mm.
just let them get creative.
Yes. Well, and I think of, that I'd given the example of value that we have just at this current stage of parenting and life that we're in is like this value of like ease and convenience that those are
Mhm.
the choices we're leaning towards right now. And it even has me like taking pause, like
Uh-oh.
that's not
Yeah, right, now
necessarily the long-term value that I have, but that means for me, like, okay, but I can make an informed decision, like a conscious choice that like this is what makes sense for us right now. And I need to communicate why that is to our children. Right? Like,
Exactly,
if I don't
yes.
want this to be the long-term thing, like, I think it's important. It's honestly, it brings more joy and more sanity to our lives to sometimes do, like, paper plates. I've said that a lot. Sometimes paper plates are the thing that we're doing. Um,
Uh-huh.
and so but explaining to them how we've come to this choice, how we hope it's not the long-term choice or whatever it is, so that we can again, going back to that values, like, I wanna give thought because I don't want that to always be what we do. And
Ye
sometimes that modeling, right? Sometimes what we do is more important than what we say, but we can kind of help
Yeah,
clarify that decision making
sure.
process.
So maybe you should just, like, blow them out of the water and, like, get out all your china if you have china or your nice, dishes
Our regular plates, yeah.
that you normally would your normal plates and be like,
Mhm.
"Guess what? If I had time, this is how I would, choose to always do it." But
Yes.
you are, keying off of the idea of time, and
Mhm.
time is the one money like, the one resource we cannot buy.
Yes.
And so I think that how we use our time is tied to and the choices that you're making is because you wanna free up your time to have more quality family time or just more
Yes.
more child
Mm.
interaction with your children, right? And
Oh, I
so
love those are the terms I wanted to use to explain it to my kids right now. Like that exact term of, yeah, I'm not necessarily just choosing convenience. I'm choosing those things to get to like that the time availability is spent with my kids in quality time instead of like right with dishes, for example,
Yeah,
on like and sometimes it's literally like week to week. It's like this week is a paper plate week. Okay, here we
sure.
go. You know?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
explaining it because we want to prioritize our family value of quality time.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm,
Even if it's just ti yeah, time together. So, yeah, and
yes.
that gets again to the trade-offs, right? But truly time. I mean, I think time in
Yes.
my field, time orientation, whether it's
Ooh.
future or present, and then again, it's in this definition, right?
Yes.
But the time we spend in the, working for a job for hourly pay,
Mm,
translating that to, okay, this is a
yes.
pair of sneakers or,
Mhm.
um, this
Whatever
paper
that thing
plate
is.
this
Yes.
set of paper plate is gonna free up my time to be with you.
Mhm. Oh,
And
I love
so,
that.
yeah, there's,
Yes.
It's really breaking it down, I guess,
And that's
you
the
know?
goal, right? We're like, okay, this huge concept of like teaching our children about money. And so it's like, okay, we're
Yeah.
talking about the goal of helping them be financially well. Whatever, right? We
Yeah.
have these kind of concepts to help us understand it a little further. We want to kind of get to the nitty-gritty. I love a framework. That's really what this whole episode is. Is this framework that the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, still practicing that. Did
Mhm.
I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I
Consumer
was like,
finance. Yep.
"Wait, was that right?" Yes, okay.
Nice work.
Thank you. But yeah, breaking this down of how do I help them get there? How do I keep that end goal in mind?
Yeah.
And so, we've talked about it a little throughout with how do we do this, with security in our parenting? How do we do this with choice in our parenting? But I also liked within this report, they really dug into kind of four key areas that can help improve financial well-being. And so I was like,
Mhm.
okay, how do we make this right? This is kind of abstract. What are the things we can narrow in on? And they had these like four verbs, these like four action words in that report that I was like, okay, that is
Yeah.
where it gets concrete of like these are the things that I can help pass on through my financial parenting, like financial socialization. So
Yeah.
will you walk us into those four areas?
Sure. So I'll tell you what they are first.
Yes.
Balance, ask, plan, act. BAPA.
Yes.
Okay, I see. I guess there's
Oh,
an
yeah, there
acronym
it
for
is.
everything.
BAPA.
BAPA. There it is. So balance. Balance is number one, living within your means. And so I have a colleague who says that, um, well, it's more, if you spend more than you take, this is not what they say, but okay. All right.
Paraphrasing. We're paraphrasing.
Yeah, happiness is when, your income is more than your expenses,
Mm.
as but that truly is when it comes to measuring financial well-being, and this is just one definition, and there are several that scholars have
Oh,
come up with,
yes.
but you gotta spend less than you make. Because
That's
then
the balance.
that's balance, and then it frees up, money for you to save. So then that
Mhm.
impacts your ability to absorb shock because you have extra money,
Mhm.
right?
Which is the
Uh,
P in BAPA, right? That's the plan.
yeah, plan. Yeah, so we have to live within our means.
Uh,
And if we're not
mm,
happy, I mean, with our where we are with our means, then that might mean taking on an extra job or
mhm.
you know,
Yes, or education or changing fields or yes.
yeah, yeah, if that's
Mhm.
possible. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. So
Okay, so balance is the first one. What's
yeah.
our next one?
Yeah. Let me just say one more thing about
Oh,
living within our
please.
means that, a big part of financial security that's not part of this definition is being able to access resources that are non-financial,
Mm.
which many things like even just like benefits, public benefits, whether it's
Oh,
food
yes.
stamps or tax credits or
Mhm.
energy assistance, help from a sibling or a friend when it comes to childcare. So reducing expenses is, and taking advantage of social benefits, public benefits can help
Yes.
us live within our means and achieve that
Yes.
balance if we don't have options like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm going to go back to college. But not everybody
Right?
has that option.
Mhm.
But there
Yeah, that
are,
access is not we don't know I always like to talk about the baseline, right? We're not all starting at the same financial baseline even as we come into adulthood or I mean, heck, as we come into life.
yeah,
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 so our
yeah,
access looks
exactly.
different.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely
Good
does.
point.
So just to back up that, yeah, what our
Yes.
means looks different for everybody, but there are
Mhm.
ways to come up with strategies to helping increase our means. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
So,
Thank you.
okay, so ask is the second of the 4 elements, and
Mhm.
so that means to gather information and evaluate results. So I told you that the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, is all about empowerment, and so, a rule as a consumer is that, you just don't walk in off the street and purchase something,
Mm.
unless okay, you're at the grocery store, you've shopped there enough, and you kinda have a set like, you've looked at
Mm.
all the different,
Like past experience.
past experience
Yes.
maybe, but yeah, let's say you're buying, you're getting your house sided, you're getting a new
Mm.
roof, you're, looking for a place to rent, we're just talking about home,
Yeah, like shelter.
housing,
Yes.
you should at least, check out 3 quotes, right?
Mm.
Yeah, so or if you're taking a loan out, go to 3 lenders and see if you get the best
Yeah.
because there's such a variation in what people charge in terms of
Mm.
prices, so gather information, evaluate
Mhm.
results, and just empower yourself with that knowledge. The
Yes,
other
so we can
yeah.
do the we can do the balancing, right? We can teach that with our kids about the income versus expenses, and the same thing with Ask, teaching them the skills to how do you gather information, even just the knowledge to know to get more than one. Like instead of just like,
Yeah.
well, they told me this, I don't know. It's like, okay, we can compare. Like that ability to ask for sure.
Yeah,
We can
exactly.
teach
Well,
that.
and that source of information is a huge one too. And
Mm,
it's specifically
it's
as a having a
trustworthy.
high school student, knowing that there are actually paid influencers who are set up in houses with certain wardrobes
Mhm.
and different objects that are all put there by marketers, just to influence my 15-year-old so that she wants what that influencer wants. So knowing
Absolutely.
what the source of information is, but that's more of a that's not quite the same as being an informed consumer in the sense of
Mm.
like, are you going to a website and getting information from someone that is non-biased and not looking to get into your wallet?
Right? Or
Yeah.
is it like, I'm getting the information from the person who wants to sell it to me?
Yeah, yeah, right,
Like, I
exactly,
would like to
so
sell you this product, so I'm gonna tell you how good this product is.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly, and so there's always might be a product that's always gonna have a cost, but there's always gonna
Mm.
be variability in how much cost, so,
Mm. Good
alright,
to know.
so
So
that's
ask,
ask,
alright?
ask, yeah, so plan, is the 3rd, focus on
Mhm.
the future, right? So planning, so all of us need to have a roadmap, right, in terms of what our financial goals are, what our aspirations are, and we need to have a way to get there, and so ways to, focus on the future is like that saving for emergencies, right? So
Yes.
in case, inevitably everybody has either a life event or some structural thing in the environment like COVID-19, a housing
Mhm.
crisis that will create a shock. And so we need to
Yes.
be ready for them. And so that's focusing on the future, that just in case, and I always tell my child and her friends, like, that's my job as a parent is like to look at worst case scenarios. So when I tell you not to
Ooh.
do something, it's because that's my job. That's what I'm always
I'm
doing,
supposed to
right?
see those risks and
Yeah,
help you
I
not get into them.
exactly. So let's like take it back a little further and think about it financially and say, okay, um, so what are the financial risks if I lose my job?
Mm.
Right? How am I in
Mhm.
trouble? And so focus on the
Alright.
future, planning
So
for
the
larger
plan.
purchases, and life events, right? So
Mhm.
planning. You wanna
That's
buy a
planning.
car? Okay, let's look at, smart set a goal to buy a car. Well, how are we gonna get there? Make a plan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Alright,
So,
love that one. And one
y
more,
one more, act.
trickier one.
Setting ourselves up for success, right? And it's
Act.
again, having that roadmap, having a plan, but things that we can do is, automatic like, put your savings on automatic so you don't even think about it. Put your
Mm.
billing pay like, your bill pay on automatic so that you never miss a bill that
Mhm.
you're and get charged a late fee, right? Pay off your credit card fully every month. Like, these are things that you can do, to set yourself up for success. Don't ever take on more debt than you need,
Mm.
like, do you really need to get a gigantic jacuzzi? I know
Mm.
I
Like,
know.
taking on debt to go do that,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, that you really have to be strategic about your choices. Yeah, so things like saving consistently. Yeah. So
Mhm. And so that's
that's
really,
it.
like, the behavior, right? So, like, the balance and the ask and the plan, right? I almost feel like those are skills, and the act is kind of living those out. Like, are you
I mean,
actually
that's
making the choices that align with the plan, with the
yeah.
information you had? It is, like, that's an important part of it. I can tell my children till I'm blue in the face, like, "We should save." And if I am always, like, tossing money around, not saving, right? And so, like, yeah, we can model that action
Yeah,
'cause we know what they're
yeah.
gonna learn from it.
Yeah, so whatever the goal is for your family and, like, again, yeah, let them know what your goal is and why you're making your choices. And that's
Mm,
something a colleague of mine, likes to say is it's not that I can't afford it, it's that I don't choose to afford that particular
yes.
thing,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
And
that's not
so
the priority.
yeah, it's not exactly. And so
Mhm,
having those discussions again, back to that explicit, communication and
mm,
socialization,
mhm.
is it's really that communication piece.
Absolutely. Alright, so our 4 key areas that we can kind of help pass on, balance, ask, plan, and act. So,
Yeah.
so much good stuff. Honestly, this idea, like, the beginning with the end in mind, right? Like thinking about
Yes.
raising kids who become financially well adults. Is that how I would say that? Right? They're well financially. Those
Yes.
things, financial well-being.
Financial
Um,
well-being, and then
right? That's
and
the
the
goal.
that's the goal. It's the goal, but the other goal that we're not talking about is financial independence.
Ooh, but we're gonna get there. We are gonna get
Parenting
there,
in
right? It's
every
coming up.
area is about independence, right?
Mm,
Yeah,
That's
right?
really a value of our culture in the US. Absolutely, of
Yes.
like raising kids to become financially independent. So we are going to
We're
get into
heading
that,
there. We're
listeners.
heading
We're
there.
headed there.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, this is old hat to you by now. We're ready for our stop read talk space where our producer Mackenzie DeYoung is going to come in, ask us an off the cuff question about our topic this week. What do you got, Kens?
So nice to see you, Mackenzie.
Hello. Um, so you're talking about financial well-being. You're talking about like doing all of these things, but what if I'm at a point in my life where I feel like I'm too late? Is it ever too late? Is it ever too late to start
Mm,
working on financial well-being?
No, never, never, never too late to
never.
it's never too late to start.
Mm,
I would say, like I've said in the last 2 episodes, what I strive to do is to help people reduce their financial stress and increase their control, right? And so part of
mm,
that definition is I have control over my day-to-day, month-to-month finances. And so if you can start simple, by just assessing where you are, um,
mm,
and then breaking it down. There's always room to move to, let's say you're thinking about debt, right? I have too much debt. I don't, I just want to stay under a rock and not think about it. Um, so the idea is you got to assess your situation. What is my debt amount? Okay. And then I'm going to list the amounts and I'm going to list the interest rates that, from the highest interest rate I'm
mm.
being charged on the money I'm borrowing to the lowest amount. And some people might pick that small dollar amount, like, oh, this one's only like $75, on
Like,
this
I could
credit
do that.
card. I can do this and I'm going to just crush it. And so,
Mhm,
that's one approach. Now, the economic decision is to pay the big one. But there's, so I think people who are feeling despair, feeling like, oh, it's
mm,
too late for me, is maybe because they're just not feeling in control, right? And so
mm,
you gotta start by getting in control, breaking things down, and really thinking about what your goal is. And there's all sorts of community resources that can help you get there too and help
mm.
you with the conversation.
Yes.
Nonprofit like counselors or debt counselors can help you.
Mm. Well, and I just assumed you meant like, is it too late to talk to my kids about money?
Oh
And
my gosh! Oh, sorry.
no, no, and
Yeah.
I think that like it's
Not
both.
what I meant, but
It
yeah,
really
sure.
is both.
Yeah.
Of like, is it too late to talk to with my kids about money? And no. I think like even if your kids are adults, they of course have their own freedom of choice and hopefully right financial independence in those things, but that there are still opportunities to talk about how you made decisions or even passing on the like mistakes, like things you wish you hadn't done financially, or there's still opportunities to share the experience that you have if you've got adults. If you've got kids who are kids or teens, or yeah, I even think like, okay, I have an 18-year-old. Is it too late? I've never talked with them about money. I mean, my opinion would be no. Like, don't you think, Suzanne? Like, there's opportunities for input and growth and sharing and learning.
Absolutely,
Hmm.
and they never stop, really.
Mm,
I mean, it depends on you as a family and as a parent, but a lot of
hmm.
times our financial kind of purse strings extend over the lifetime, in a sense of,
uh,
just through gift giving or
hmm.
help when we need it, like that capacity to absorb shock. One of the social resources is family and friends, right?
Hmm.
And so, like, you're in trouble and you can go to a family member for a loan, to get you across a threshold or something,
Right.
then that's something that, yeah, again, it's a tie that's still there. But no, in
Hmm.
terms of talking to your kids about money, yeah, I mean,
Never too
when they
late.
buy their first car, it's
Mm,
shopping with them, when they buy their first house, maybe if they buy a house or when they're
hmm.
looking for housing. Um, yeah, I mean, there's just all these financial decisions, having a child, having their first
Hmm.
child.
Yeah.
There's the expensive hospital, like having a child, right?
Yeah, the
The
actual, like, process.
hospitalization, like the bill, right? All the stuff you
Yes.
need for a new baby.
Mhm.
That's why we have showers,
Yes,
so
like a
so
baby
like
shower.
yeah, so I mean the financial ties really don't stop.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so there's always an opportunity for conversation like, "Hey, okay, I'm gonna buy you this stroller, but let's also start a college fund."
Mm.
Or let's
Yeah.
also start, whether they're going to trade school or, as an value or yeah,
Whatever
so
that looks like.
Yeah, I
whatever it
absolutely
looks
think,
like.
I probably talk to my parents more about that kind of stuff. Maybe if they're not giving, not lending me money or giving me money, that I'm definitely I talk to my parents about purchases and advice and all of
Oh.
that more now than I
Yes.
probably ever did. As a teenager, I was probably like, heck with you.
Eh.
I want to spend my money how I want to spend my money. But now I'm like, should I buy this chair? Should I buy this table? No,
Yes.
should I buy that decoration for the wall and the
Mm.
whatever's in my those little things that
Yeah.
we've talked about this a lot too of parenting doesn't end when you're
Exactly.
Right.
Well,
Right.
and some of the bigger financial decisions happen once you hit 18,
Mhm.
right? And so
Mhm.
whether or not you go right into the workforce, you're going to become financially independent quicker if you go from high school into the
Oh,
workforce,
yes.
but you still need help managing your paycheck and what are the benefits in evaluating a job, right?
Mhm.
So
I think
and
of that, like, phone call that I always had, like, what number am I supposed to put on this, like, I don't even know the numbers, Suzanne. I don't even know. The W-4? W-9?
W-2?
W-2?
W-2,
I was like,
W-4.
like, when you, like, get a new job and you're like, "Oh, what do I put here? How many?"
Oh, in terms
All
of
those
withholding
things.
and all that,
Yes,
yes.
and I would still need to make that phone call if I'm honest. So it's never too late.
Yeah, right, and then childhoods if you don't jump right into the workforce and that's kids that
Mhm.
maybe go to community college or a four-year college, that extends out even longer in terms of,
Mhm.
financial independence doesn't come until maybe your mid-20s, maybe your late
Mhm.
20s, right?
Mhm.
So,
Ooh, emerging adulthood, that's coming
emerging
later this season
adulthood.
too.
So, in other words, as a parent, no, it's not too late. And as a child, no, it's not too late.
Mhm.
And if
Good
you're
Whoever is
summary.
thinking about it. Yes.
sandwich generation, it's not too late to think about it for your own kids and for yourself.
Yeah, good summary. Good
Yeah.
All right,
summary.
I'll see myself
I'll
out
say,
then.
and good question.
Yeah.
Pat on back for a good summary. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Thank you for that stop,
Awesome.
breathe, talk.
Yes, it's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Moment to pause. Awesome. Thanks, Kens. So that wraps us up today. We have, we've really just kind of took this moment today to dig into like what's the end goal? What are we talking about? Why are we talking about financial socialization? In the next few episodes, we're gonna get into some fun stuff. But for today, we really did just like, okay, slow down. What do we want? What does financial well-being look like in the long term and in the present for our children? And how can we parent in a way that's going to align with those things? So we learned a lot about security and choice as components of financial well-being today. And of course, got those 4 key areas that we can tap into.
Mhm. That's right. And just, knowing that the financial well-being, this idea of having your child having financial security and financial freedom when
Mm.
they become financial independent.
Yes.
That is the goal.
Like
There's like
someday.
this dual goal as parents. We want our financially independent children to have financial well-being. So it's that
Yes.
pairing of the two.
Mhm. Good
Yeah.
point.
And
Good
so,
point.
because we don't want our children to have stressful lives.
Awesome. Such a good stuff coming here. So, thanks for joining us today on the Science of Parenting podcast. Remember, if you are a regular listener to the audio, don't forget that you can also watch our episodes on video each week. Sometimes Mackenzie DeYoung even pops in some fun visuals that you can look at and look for. So, find our videos on YouTube, Facebook, or on our website at scienceofparenting.com.
Okay, great.
.org. I didn't mean that. Scienceofparenting.org.
Yeah, so come along. We're going to tackle the ups and the downs, the ins and the outs, and the research and the reality all around science of parenting.
The Science of Parenting is hosted by Mackenzie Johnson, produced by Mackenzie DeYoung, with research and writing by Barbara Dunn Swanson. Send in questions and comments to parenting@iastate.edu and connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or accommodation inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/ext.